privilege of doing the final video in our awesome August video series. Today we are talking about wisdom in action, living it out by the grace of God. The main passage that we will be speaking on today is Proverbs 31. Now, when I first saw that this was the chapter I was to talk about, I thought, oh no, those verses contain that overly idealistic and fairly prescriptive list of what it means to be a godly woman. However, as I sat with the text, read around the passage and waited for God to speak, my perspective was changed. I discovered two things. Firstly, that this passage is a celebration of wisdom in action. It is a picture of what wisdom looks like practically. Secondly, this passage is a vision of what the church should look like if it has a handle on wisdom. We are called to be wisdom in action as the Spirit works in us to refine us. So, let's start with looking further at the passage being a celebration of wisdom in action. This passage is a poem, it's not a list. The function of the poem is to captivate the reader with a vision of what wisdom looks like in action, what wisdom looks like in the everyday, and to celebrate this. We can see this sense of celebration within some Jewish communities where the men memorise the passage and sing it as a song of praise to the women in their lives, their sisters, their mothers, their daughters, their friends, their wives. Here, the poem is used as a celebration of wisdom in the lives of everyday women within the community. The phrase woman of valour that we see in verse 10 is also used as a blessing by the women in some Jewish communities to encourage one another, to celebrate everything from pregnancies and promotions, acts of justice and mercy, to battles with cancer. It's kind of like the equivalent of, you go girl. Again, here this passage is used as a celebration of wisdom in action in the everyday. This is quite different to the prescriptive list for women that I had originally understood it to be. But this chapter is more than just a celebration of wisdom in action. It is a compelling vision of what the church is called to be. So we're on to my second discovery now. Let's unpack this a bit further. Proverbs 31 is written to a man. Throughout Proverbs, there is a clear call to the reader to desire, seek out, treasure and love wisdom. And here she is in our passages today, embodied as a woman. Not only is the reader called to desire wisdom, but wisdom pursues and calls the reader. There is a desire, a love, an intimacy here between the reader and wisdom, which is like that of a husband and wife. Now, the early church fathers, like St. Augustine, understood the Proverbs woman as representative of the bride of Christ, the church. When we look at Scripture as a whole, it is easy to see why. Throughout Scripture, God's people are consistently referred to as a woman, a wife, a bride who is pursued, desired and loved by God. Like the image of intimacy between wisdom and the reader, we see a similar intimacy played out between God and his people in the Old Testament and the New Testament. God continually desires, pursues and calls his people. However, his people continually fail to live up to this call. In the New Testament, a new way is made possible through Jesus. Paul tells us in 1 Corinthians that Jesus is God's wisdom. Jesus is wisdom incarnate. He is the fulfillment of Proverbs. It is he who enables us to be transformed and embody wisdom. Jesus, as God's wisdom, answers the question of Proverbs 31. a woman of valor. Who can find? Jesus has found her. Jesus is making her. He is preparing his bride, the church. Jesus is doing in us, as the bride of Christ, what we could not do for ourselves by willpower or effort alone. This passage celebrates what we as the church, as the bride of Christ, are called to embody through Jesus. So, what does this passage tell us about who Jesus is making us to be as the bride of Christ? It tells us that she is valuable, worth more than rubies. That means that you and I, us together, are valuable, worth more than rubies. She is trusted. We are trusted to be the hands and feet of Jesus, to embody the upside down wisdom of the kingdom here on earth. She is committed to various roles and seems productive in these. The church fulfills a range of roles and services to one another and to the wider community. We are one body, and each of us, from the newest newborn to the oldest member of the church, plays a vital role in the church family. The newest newborn was probably born a second ago in the worldwide church. That newest newborn, only a second old, is vital, essential to the healthy functioning of us as the body, as the bride of Christ. She is strong and empowered. The church functions in the power of Jesus, the authority of Jesus. The same power that conquered the grave lives in us, in you, in me, in us as the bride of Christ. She is generous. We are called to give ourselves because we know that we are not our own, and what we have has been given by him. She is secure. Are we secure in our identity as the bride of Christ, as beloved, as called, as chosen by him, and empowered to embody his kingdom on earth as it is in heaven? She is beautiful. She is beautiful and to be praised because of her love for Yahweh, because of her love for Yahweh. We become what we love. We become what we worship. Let us, the bride, become beautiful like Jesus. This is how we embody wisdom, through loving and growing deeper in our relationship with Jesus and reflecting his image more and more. What a wonderful vision this is of the church as the bride of Christ. We are called into this. What a wonderful promise that we will become all of this. This is our hope, which will be fulfilled on that day when the marriage of the Lamb comes and his bride has prepared herself, as we read in Revelation. Proverbs 31 then holds us in our hope. It provides us with a beautiful vision of what we are and who we are becoming through Jesus. Because this is a vision of the Christian hope, it doesn't always match up with our current experience. There is a part of me that wanted to see the woman of valor go through some hardship or struggle and still embody wisdom. It just looks so easy for her to embody wisdom. But we know that life is not always as simple as that. I find it helpful to read Proverbs alongside the other wisdom literature. We see a wisdom beyond wisdom through Ecclesiastes and Job, a wisdom embodied amidst the hardship of life, a wisdom that comes to a place of trust in God amidst the struggle, and after a long journey of questioning, wrestling, and real raw honesty with God. Books like Ecclesiastes and Job sit with us and cry out with us in our pain in the present when we have not fully arrived at our final hope. They give voice to our pain and our disappointment and our confusion when life doesn't turn out as we feel it should. When we have embodied wisdom, when we have ticked the boxes, but life still doesn't turn out as we expect it to, when there's still pain and there's still hardship. Those books hold us in that place, but Proverbs 31 gives us a beautiful vision of the hope that we can hold on to, the trust that we can have in God, in this promise of our glorious future, of who we are becoming as the bride of Christ.